Hey, what's up, Vox and Hops heads? I'm Matt, the vocalist of Cryptopsy, and you're listening to my podcast, Vox and Hops, where I sit down with fellow metal musicians to talk about their lives, music, and craft beer. In case you missed it, Devastation on the Nation 2020 has been postponed until 2021. Devastation on the Nation features Rotting Christ, Borknagar, Wolfheart, Abigail Williams, and Imperial Triumphant. And I am super stoked and super proud of Daniel DeFonce, the Vox&Hops Alumni, the man behind Metal Festival Tours. He also works for Unique Leader, and he also books for Continental Touring. Much love and respect for him pulling this off so quickly, getting it all together. If you have your tickets for Devastation on the Nation 2020, your tickets shall be honored at the 2021 date. Don't worry about that. You just show up with your ticket and it will be honored at the 2021 date. If you would like a refund, you can go and do that at your place of purchase. But I think you should still come to the show because Devastation on the Nation is a party that you do not want to miss. Devastation on the Nation is proudly brought to you by Metal Festival Tours, Continental Touring, and the Vox&Hops Podcast. Much love and respect to all the Vox&Hops heads, the Vox&Hops alumni, everybody that came out last night to the Vox&Hops Thirsty Thursday virtual hang hour. It was super fun. I had such a great time. So much fun to see so many Vox&Hops alumni, some Vox&Hops heads all gathering together. It's nice to put some faces to some familiar names that I've been communicating with via the internet. Much respect, much love. I had a lot of fun. It was great to see all the local craft brews that you guys are drinking. I am super stoked to do again. I'm going to be doing this every Thursday at different times so that people from different time zones can participate. Next week's is going to be a little bit earlier so that the people in Europe can attend. So I'm super stoked to hang out with you all again next week on Thursday, the Vox&Hops Thirsty Thursday virtual hang hour. COVID-19 is something that we must take seriously. It is something that we can't mess around with. The best way to do that is to practice social distancing and social isolation. Stay in your houses. Don't go outside unless it's absolutely necessary. Wash your hands. Avoid public places. You don't want to mess around with this virus. Everybody stay home. Stay safe. It is the only way that we're going to make this go away much faster so that we can get back to normal life.
Hey, what's up? This is Rob the Witch from Necronomicon. You're listening to Vox&Hops.
Hey, thank you so much, Rob the Witch. I had such a good time with Rob the Witch the other day. If you have not listened to that episode, it is probably in my top 10 of favorite Vox&Hops interviews. Please go back and check out the Vox&Hops episode with Rob the Witch from Necronomicon. Much love and respect, brother. On this episode, I am with Ken Sorceron of Abigail Williams. Here it is, Vox&Hops episode number 121.
I warn you, what you are about to hear is very disturbing indeed.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Today I'm with Ken Sorceron from Abigail Williams, and I'm super stoked to be with you. I was very disappointed that Devastation on the Nation fell through. I was looking forward to hooking up with you. I have toured with many of your past band members, but I have actually never met you. So, hello. Nice to meet you. How are you doing? You've told me that you are quarantined in the woods. Let's talk about that. Let's start off with that.
Yeah, so my options were stay at my apartment in Seattle where everything was going crazy, or go to the middle of nowhere in a cabin. My girlfriend's mom has a cabin that we've actually stayed at for a year at one point. So just kind of packed up the truck and with some supplies and just decided to wait it out here rather than, be in a small apartment, So now we got a big ass yard, we don't have to see people,
You made a post on Facebook earlier this week that not much has changed for you. You don't really mind being isolated, and I feel the same.
Yeah.
My wife, on the other hand, is like super excited to. I've been doing like video conferencing with my work people, and she's more excited to do that than I am. I'm perfectly fine being alone by myself in my house with my wife and my kids, and you feel the same.
Yeah. If it wasn't for touring, I would have no social life whatsoever.
which might become the future of this for the next few months. How do you feel about that? We spoke about it briefly over a Facebook Messenger conversation that back in the day, a lot of people gave Allegiant flack for starting up a Patreon. But I sort of think that with everything that's going to happen with COVID-19 and the impact it's going to have on the entertainment industry is going to last for a lot longer than we probably anticipate. I think a lot more bands are going to be turning towards either crowdfunding or Patreons or other sources of income still in the entertainment world. What do you think about that now?
I agree. It's something I've been starting to think about, and I don't know where to start because, I have no experience with that world. I used to be one of those people that would talk shit about bands that were doing that. And over the years, I kind of realized that it was actually pretty smart, and it's not really begging. The music world has changed, The income isn't what it once was. And you know what? If people want to give their money to these artists, then they should, there should be nothing wrong with that. When I saw what Winter Sun did, it blew me away with the amount of money that dude raised. And it kind of like, I felt like, all right, if he's able to generate all that money like that, then he deserves it, And it made me think like he was right. I mean, he knew he could do that. He thought he knew what he was worth when other people didn't. And then he, proved everyone, it was pretty amazing, honestly.
And now we're all going to follow suit.
Yeah.
Classic Vox and Hops question. Take me back to your youth. In your house growing up, what was the music that was playing when you were not in control of the music? What music did your parents listen to or your guardians listen to?
So I'm 40. So when I was a kid was, 80s, early 90s. I remember my parents gave me a radio when I was like 5 for my room. And I remember Thin Lizzy came on, and I heard like those guitar harmonies, you know what I mean? And it really it did something. It like, I didn't have like hairs on my arms to stand up, but you know what I mean? It was doing that to me. I remember all the way from back then having that feeling and not understanding why, but towards my parents, my mom would listen to like In Excess, Tears for Fears, Peter Gabriel, stuff like that. And then one day she brought home Guns N' Roses, Appetite for Destruction, and I remember really liking that. That blew me away. So yeah, that's sort of what I was raised on, and then I found my mom's records at one point, Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin, things like that. Got into all that when I was a kid. And then that actually got me into playing guitar because there was a acoustic guitar down there, and I just started like teaching myself,
That's awesome.
So as far as music, I had no control over, those were the options back then.
But you definitely had a strong base from your home life, which is amazing. Vox and Hops is all about hanging out with metal dudes, drinking craft beer, and talking about their lives and their music.
Okay.
Right here I have in my hands the beer that we were supposed to drink together.
Ah, yes.
In Toronto at the after party. This is Devastation from Henderson Brewing Company. I am super stoked about this. It's a block lager. What do you have on your side? Normally we drink the same beer, but it's hard in the circumstances that we're in.
I have the Rogue Dead Guy. Classic Oregon beverage,
I definitely enjoy swinging either through Seattle or Portland for their craft beer. They have such a strong craft beer scene. How did you get into craft beer? Because I know you're a craft beer enthusiast.
Absolutely. Oh, wow. It was something that gradually happened over the years. I remember when I first started going to bars, it was in like the late 90s, and I had a fake ID, and I they didn't have like craft beers yet, you know, in bars. It was like Sierra Nevada had just like made its way. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? And it was like, I remember trying that and thinking like, wow, this is full flavor. You know what I mean? And over the years, like trying lots of stuff. And then I went through a phase where I drank nothing but piss beer just because I was on tour. And I thought if you didn't drink PBR, you were a douche. And then I got pretty sick of that, obviously. And then, I couldn't deny that, yes, I've had 350 different craft beers in the last like 7 months or something. So, yeah, I keep track. But yeah, I guess you could say I'm pretty into it now.
How do you go about keeping track? Are you on Untappd, or you just do it yourself?
Yeah, I'm on Untappd. Untappd, Sorceron, add me.
There you go. I was going to ask for it, yeah. Let's touch on the name. Before we started recording, I asked you this question. I said, it's Ken Sorceron. I'm pronouncing that right? And you said, oh, but it's not my real last name.
Yeah.
I love that you have a stage name. It's something that doesn't happen nowadays. I think it's fucking awesome. Let's talk about, you mentioned that your real last name is Bergeron.
Correct.
Or Bergeron.
Yeah.
Which is very Quebecois. Me being from Montreal, I was like, oh, it's a French name, a Quebecois. And you said, well, my parents are both from Quebec, so let's talk. I want to hear about that.
Yeah. Both sides. So my mom's side is La Chapelle. And yeah, my dad was the Bergeron. And yeah, I guess I know that. I know both grandparents came from Quebec. And I did, you know, my dad died. I couldn't really ask him, but, and I don't talk to that side of the family much, but I did some research, you know what I mean? And I found that, yeah, the first, you know, they had two Bergeron brothers had come from France to, you know, Quebec and had a lot of sex and spread the name. So I'm just keeping the tradition, you know.
That's badass. How did you guys end up in Seattle, so far away from Quebec?
So I'm originally from Connecticut. Yeah. So both sides of my family kind of had, when my grandparents came to the U.S. On both sides, and they came in through like New Hampshire and so we ended up, you know, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Connecticut, and later on New York City. So, you know, Northeast still, but yeah, I moved to Seattle because I like it. I love the Northwest. Yeah, I love the Northwest, and it was like the first time I went on a tour through the Northwest was like 2001 or something, and I especially liked it then, you know what I mean, before everyone moved there. Portland and Seattle, I really enjoyed those two cities so much at that time. I just knew I would move there eventually. Unfortunately, I got around to it after the rest of the world already had moved there, but it's still okay, you know. Yeah, I mean, I like to do like a lot of road trips.
All the hipsters are there with you.
Absolutely. It makes for having lots of good beers, though. Where there are hipsters, there will be craft beer.
What would be some of those breweries from Oregon, the Oregon state, that you like to reach towards?
Okay, so right now, there's a brewery called Best of Hands. It's in West Seattle. It is awesome. I think they only have 2 beers canned right now, but they're both really good. You got to try them. If you like, you know, New England style IPA, you know, very just juicy as hell, cloudy, you know, stuff like that. I'm really into that whole thing right now. I also really like a lot of stouts and porters. My girlfriend kind of got me into sours a little bit, you know, it was the sort of thing I used to hate them. And now now I can at least tell the difference between a good one and a bad one, you know? But yeah, there's Icicle Brewing I really like. They're in the middle of nowhere in Washington, in a town called Leavenworth. It's like a Bavarian town in the middle of the mountains. And it looks like you're in like, I swear to God, it looks like you're in like some like old time like Germany. Like, it's stunning, and there's like epic winter wonderland mountains in the background, and all the I mean, you can get like, it's like German sausage and German beers at every bar. It's fantastic. It's sort of like a little tourist destination now, you know, and in the winter it can be hard to get to because of the mountain passes, but they have a lot of good beers there as well.
That sounds fucking amazing.
It's fantastic. Anyone that's living in the Northwest or taking a trip there, go to Leavenworth, and I'll tell you what, you can just bar hop. You'll have like not only some good like, you know, U.S. craft beers, but tons of European stuff out there as well, which I always think is really cool when you can actually get like good European beer in the States, you know?
Yeah, those classic pure beers. I miss them sometimes. I go on tour in Europe and I drink so many of them, and then I'm fed up with them.
You miss them.
But then when I come home and I haven't toured for a little while, I have a few. Shout out to Vox Populi. Vox Populi here in Montreal has an excellent Czech Pils that I reach towards when I'm...
Yeah, Czech Pilsner used to be one of my favorite styles. Still is. I guess, you know, I've just had so much of it that it started to hate it. But yeah, I'll tell you what, it's hard to do though. You know, it's hard to get right. So many people try and they don't even come close, you know? That's the thing, is like a good like even golden lager, I feel like is really hard to get right.
I've heard that a lot. It's much easier to hide flaws and mistake in this New England hazy style beer than any of those pure beers.
Yeah. Good. Which is fine. I swear, even some of the bad hazies are still very drinkable to me. You know what I mean?
At what point is there going to be an Abigail Williams beer?
Oh, God. It's been a long time dream of mine, actually. I don't know. I got to figure out who to talk to about that. Maybe I got to make it myself. Maybe I got to learn the art of brewing.
You should. What would be the style of the beer, and what would it be called?
I'd like to do something like a nitro stout. Very creamy, and oh my God, I had a Old Rasputin Nitro like a few weeks right before I had to come here. I had it on Nitro, and it blew my mind. Like, everybody likes Old Rasputin, you know what I mean?
It's a classic.
On Nitro, I had never had it on Nitro. It was like a whole new beer.
That's awesome.
Had to take a side note on that. But yeah, I wanted to do something in that vein, you know what I mean? Maybe even something that you could throw back a few, you know? Keep it around 5.5, you know? Something poundable still, you know?
That's exactly what I wanted to do with the Devastation Black Lager from Henderson Brewing Co. Oh, we would have had so much fun that night.
I was excited to try it.
Me too. I was excited to share it with you. What would you call the beer, though?
Well, it's a dark beer, so I'd call it In the Absence of Light, which is one of our albums.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
As this whole COVID thing took off and became a serious thing, were you one of those people that believed it from the beginning?
Wow, that's a good question. Check this out. I've been following this thing since before it even came the first case in Seattle. As I drive Lyft, and I have a lot of time to listen to news and podcasts and YouTube videos, and so I'm pretty up on a lot of topics, more so than I wish I was. But as soon as I heard about this, it was something. It wasn't like the usual, viruses pop up all the time, and those sort of stories usually bore me very quick. But for some reason, this one caught my interest, so I was following it, and sure enough, first case in the U.S. was in Seattle, where I was, and I was like, okay, so now I'm paying attention even more. And I basically, just from some sources that I didn't know if they were credible or what on the internet, but I already had been hearing how, like, infectious this was. I had a R0 that was a lot higher than the regular flu, as well as, the complications. And so I was concerned, and I remember thinking, like, the tour is probably going to get canceled. I did some math, and I was like, at the rate that this spreads, I don't think our tour is going to happen. And if it does, I was prepared to do the tour. I just knew probably we were going to be having shows canceled by the end, It actually ended up being ahead of schedule, from what I was thinking, which is, I was telling my bandmates, I was like, hey, you guys, we should probably talk about what we're going to do in the event that some shows get canceled, because, we're paying for a bandwagon every day. And, money starts adding up. And so that was a concern.
Bandwagons are absolutely amazing, super fun, but they're not cheap.
Yeah, exactly. And
anyone out there that can challenge bandwagons, I challenge you to start another company to give us a chance. We need someone coming out there to challenge bandwagon, to bring down those costs on both sides.
Yeah. Do you remember rocket ships?
No.
So they were like Mercedes Sprinters, sort of like what we use in Europe, but done up like a bus inside. And those are pretty sweet, obviously only for one band, and
which is how we like it.
Yeah, exactly. So they're great. Like, when I was in the Faceless, we did a tour, and we did Summer Slaughter in one of those, and it was awesome. BDM guys like Alan was like coming to hang out with us on our rocket ship over his bus, you know what I mean? But, obviously the bus is cooler, but I'm just saying it's a cool, like, environment, where you're not sharing it with another band, and it is a lot cheaper than, I think, I thought about that would be a cool business to get into, buy a couple of Sprinters and deck them out like buses inside and rent them out to all my friends and bands for a price that's not going to totally destroy. You save a lot of money because you're not getting hotels every night, For bands that do get hotels.
Even if you get a hotel, you don't get to sleep.
No.
It makes me so mad when I'm in Europe and they're like, don't worry, you got hotels every night. And I'm like, but I'm not going to be able to sleep in them.
I know. I'm
going to take a shower. I'm going to lie down for 2 hours, and I'm going to have to get in the van. It's a fallacy. It drives me crazy.
I like to tour.
Exactly.
When we tour Europe, in a Sprinter, I'm that guy up in the top, the bunk, above the equipment.
Same.
Like I always say, this is my thing. You probably might do something similar. Like, a singer needs sleep because he'll lose his voice.
Back to you preparing your bandmates with what happened. So when everything hit the wall, and I'm sort of happy that Borknagar and Wolfheart and Rod and Christ hadn't already flown over, because it would have been more shitty for them almost.
Absolutely. I was getting so worried that they were going to get here and it was all going to go down within the first couple days. And, I was preparing for that because we started on the West Coast. I knew I was going to be in Seattle within a few days, and I was fully expecting the tour to possibly be coming to an end. And I was thinking, like, well, at least I'll get a few shows in, But it's we've never lived through anything like this, This is going to be one of those things that's in the history books,
You are absolutely correct there.
Like, we don't even know where this is leading.
which is scary.
Yeah, it is scary.
How prepared were you? You sound like you were prepared, but how prepared were you personally? Once it was canceled, did you start stockpiling, or are you a person that already has a stockpile of food?
I already had a decent stockpile of food and stuff like that. We have, we're expecting the big one in Seattle, big earthquake. So
got it. Yeah.
People don't think about things like this. I think maybe after this, once we get back to normal, people might prepare for things like this a little bit better. But yeah, I was definitely, I didn't have to go to the store after everything was gone. You know what I mean? I had everything. I have meat delivered out here, which is awesome. And we have tons of canned goods, lots of vitamins, all the things you need,
That's good. That's wise. That's the way to do it.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, I didn't want to be that guy, but I felt like, it's food, but I'm going to eat it eventually anyways, right? So you might as well just, and most of the food I got, I ordered ahead of time on Amazon before everybody else, and I just waited for a lot of it to just show up, and sure enough, I even got, before everyone was bought all the masks out and all that, I had a couple of those, just not hoarding, just a couple, for emergencies, who knows, I got goggles, who knows? I'm not using any of this stuff, but what if, it's pretty cheap insurance, in my opinion. But now I'm out here, I'm just going to make music. We're doing an album just like this.
So you guys are writing an album?
Yeah, the album's written, yeah.
It's already written?
I'm going to start recording it.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was a huge fan of the last...
I have the next 2 albums written.
Really? That's all. How does that come about? It all comes from you?
Yeah, I write... I guess you could say I have a big stockpile of songs, and so what I do... So for the last couple albums, I've been taking songs that I've had for a long time already, and then just choosing the best ones that I think are going to be for that album. And then of course I'll update them a bit when it's for, when I'm actually recording. All the times I've listened to them, I'm making notes like, yeah, I'm going to change that. I'm going to make this better. And then I just do that for the final recording. So right now, I went through a bunch of demos and I picked the songs, and I hit up the label and I was like, hey, listen, got time, I'm gonna do this album, so whatever. So it should be out later this year.
I'm sure you're not the only one. There's gonna be so many albums out. It's gonna be amazing.
I know, that's what I was thinking. It's gonna be a rush of albums. So our last album, thank you, by the way. I just remembered you said that you liked it, which is, the way we did that album, it is perfect for a situation like this. None of us even saw each other.
Yeah, exactly. You guys live all over the States.
We all did our stuff at home. So there was no, we're fully prepared just to do the album like this,
That's amazing. I was showing Chris today from Cryptopsy this whole platform of Zoom, and we set up so that we can keep working on the Cryptopsy album. So that's amazing. You guys were avant-garde even in that.
Yeah, it's cool. I like living in this world of being able to pick bandmates that don't live right there. Like when I first started the band, and this isn't it's not a diss to the people I had. They were actually really good, everybody was really good, and all the dudes I've ever had in the band for the most part were really talented, really good. And when we first started out, it was just more like finding people with similar interests was hard,
That's right, yeah.
So you end up maybe compromising a little bit on what you want to do just to have a band, just for the sake of having a band. Like, oh, how can I keep these people interested? Even as the main songwriter, you have to keep people interested, that, you know what I mean? So there was a lot of that. And then as time went, it was like, wait a minute, we don't have to live in the same city, or just get together right before a tour, rehearse for a couple days, and we're good. It's really opened up possibilities for a lot of bands, I think.
And you happen to find people that are in many bands.
That's also true. Bryce, at least I knew what I was getting into with Bryce right off the bat. It's funny because, like, Bryce, when I was singing for the Faceless, we were going through drummers at videos, and I think Justin was like, he was the Justin from Zenith Passage. He was the guitar player for the Faceless at the time, and he was like, check out this dude Bryce, and he sent us a video of him playing one of the more difficult songs, and I was blown away. I was like, wow, this guy, he wasn't even, I don't even think his kick was triggered, he sounded so good. And I remember we were trying to get Michael Keane to check out his video, and he couldn't be bothered, And then finally it got down to the wire. We really needed someone, and then he finally watched it and was like, oh, this guy's badass, and so it was like, just from being in that band together for the short time that we actually played together, I was like, hey, you want to play an Abigail, And I already knew he was going to be in a million bands. And I'm so used to drummers, I know what drummers do,
Why is it always the drummer, though?
Because they're so in demand. I mean, they do have arguably the hardest job. Playing guitar, of course, like, I don't actually have the determination to play guitar like a lot of dudes that are so amazing at guitar. And I'm not, these dudes, we know guys, we both know guys that are like, they got that way because they practiced 8 hours a day for a long time, but they could do that in their bedroom, whereas like a drummer, they have to be very loud. It's a different level of dedication, I think, They have to find a place to be able to...
And patience from their parents.
Exactly. You have to have the right parents, basically, is what it comes down to.
or the drive, as you were just leading towards, to go to the rehearsal room. And not a lot of people will do that. We'll put the 8 hours in.
Exactly. There, a lot of drummers that I've had in the band have been dudes that really spent a lot of time. I watched these guys become monsters and go on to like way bigger bands. You know what I mean?
huge shout out to Bedini.
Yeah, I mean, that guy, I remember seeing him play. We were doing a tour in he was in Abysmal Dawn, and I remember thinking, like, he wasn't there yet, but I knew. I was like, this kid is going to be sick, and I wanted him in the band. He actually played bass for half that tour for Abigail, because we had a bass player leave mid-tour, and Beneni learned the songs on bass. And then after that, I was like, hey, you want to play drums? And me and the guitar player, Ian, he's an Aborted too now. Another band.
Shout out to Ian. Much love, brother.
Another band I used to play in, actually, back in the day. Kind of funny. But yeah, that's actually how Bedeni got in Aborted. Was like, I was in Aborted first, and then we needed a drummer, and I was like, hey.
What did you play in Aborted?
Guitar.
You play guitar in Aborted?
Yeah.
How did I miss this? I missed this note. I'm sorry.
I think a lot of people did. I was on the EP.
Yeah. Shout out to Sven for being persistent.
Yeah, actually, they did an EP. It was called Coronary Reconstruction. I was on that, and it was right after it was, I used to, actually, I don't want to say I used to be a fan of Aborted. I still like Aborted, you know what I mean? But like I'm saying, before that, I was a fan. I liked the album Gormageddon a lot. I was talking to Sven on, like MSN chat back in the day, about merch designs and things. And I had found out through the wire that he needed a guitar player, and he was doing auditions, and I offered to try out, which was basically you had to write a song in Aborted style or show that you could write songs, because he didn't have any, you know what I mean? It was like a whole new
songwriter.
Yeah. It was like he needed a whole new band, So it was after Strychnine.
He had like an album that didn't go well.
Yeah,
that's
it was
right,
after that
the
album. It was after that album, and then
Their Unspoken King.
Yeah, so yes, it was pretty much that. And which I listened to that album, Unspoken King. I didn't think it was bad like everybody like other people are saying, but whatever. That's a whole nother thing. But the Aborted album I didn't like. So he was like, basically, we won't do any of that material. We're gonna play the classic stuff and focus on new stuff. It was cool. I mean, it was cool to be in that band for maybe it was like a year and a half or something. I mean, I have my own band, and how things go, and I think it was the sort of thing where it was like, I really want to be able to focus on this, and I get this position this Sven's in also with all the lineup changes. I've been there myself, as a lot of other guys I know that are, you know what I mean? And
as we have as well. Yeah. How do you persevere? What is your secret? So it's weird. When I first started the band, I came to this realization that because we were going through members, and then I realized, like, man, the band keeps getting better. This guy's out, now I got this guy. Wow, we're better. This guy, I've learned something from this other guy now, and now I feel like I'm better too. You know what I mean? And it kept going. And you play with a lot of people. You get to play with some really good drummers. You get to play with some guys that just destroy you on guitar. You know what I mean? And you learn a lot from them, and you can inject it into your own thing. And I don't know, why do I keep the band going? I have no idea. I some sort of sick, twisted, punishment that I have to put on myself. It's not easy, as you know. Well, if you have 2 albums under your belt right now just waiting to come out, you have to keep the band going. You need someone to play those parts.
It's very true. There was a time when I didn't know if I wanted to do the band anymore. There's been a lot of times like that.
Because you guys were going so hard. I was watching... You guys, like, from like mid 2000s, even earlier, like from 2000 all the way to 2011, 2012, you guys were like riding hard, and then you seemed to sort of like take a break almost. Is that during that time period?
Yeah, I got really burnt, man. Really just touring super hard, basically for no money. Coming home from tours with not a lot of money at all, and then of course all the drama that can go on in a band, like
it's heavy.
Just the, and then there's the internet, don't ever read the comments, basically.
I try not to, but
learned that a long time ago. I guess feeling underappreciated not just as like a band, but like as a human being, from like people like booking agents and every, you know, I feel like I'm friends with my booking agent, by the way, Dan. Hello.
DeFonce?
I like that guy a lot. Yeah, DeFonce is my boy. Yeah, but, you know, some of the guys I had worked with in the past were, you know, I don't know. I watched them sort of run our name into the ground, you know, putting us on too many tours that we didn't belong on, pressuring us to do these things, giving...
Does his name rhyme with Jimberg?
Yeah. Definitely up there. You know, I do feel in a way, it's both. I feel bad and I feel like, wow, good for you, for the people that never, that came after post Inberg era.
You guys worked hard. That's
yeah,
for
and
sure.
there wasn't anything to show for it, I felt like. And it kind of made me like, you know, want to try other things. You know, I played in other bands on the side, and, you know, that was around the Aborted thing too, also. It was somewhat in that era. You know, I mean, I just kind of wanted to... I also tried to live regular life for almost a year. And I ended up... You know what I ended up doing was going on tour with bands. Just doing sound, and I was just like, you know... I used to do sound by trade when I was younger, and...
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, and so... But what happened was, I can't go on... I can, but I can't. Going on tour and doing sound for a band is like watching someone like fuck my girlfriend. You know what I mean?
I agree.
It was hard. It was like, I missed rocking, you know?
That vibe from the fans.
Yeah, I missed it. You know, it's... you don't...
That thin Lizzy hair-raising moment.
That's what it is, man. I miss, like, even playing to, like, 40 people and having, like, the 3 people go, hey, that was cool. You know what I mean? Even just that, you know? It's funny.
I agree. I have a hard time even just going to do interviews. And I do a bunch of interviews with everyone. I'm watching all my friends on stage. I'm happy to see my friends.
Yeah.
Happy to see my friends on stage, but there's a part of me that wants to be up there, of course.
I'm in the same boat. Like, I don't go to a lot of shows like I used to because, number one, I'm just getting old. Number two, yeah, I do kind of, I get a little jealous. You know, I want to be doing it. I want to, you know, at the end of the night, I feel like I should be getting in the van with these guys, you know?
Where are we going next?
You know, and the cool thing is, you know, all my friends are in bands, and they're going to come around. Well, I don't know what's happening.
They will once this boils over.
Yeah, exactly. Even my own bandmates will be coming. They come around. You know what I mean? And there are other bands. You know, and you can hang out. But it's the cool thing about. You know what's cool about doing this is, like, we know all the dudes that we always wish we knew. You know what I mean?
That's true.
It's like, you don't really stop and think about that too often, but it's really funny when you think about it. Like, I can hit up all these dudes just to shoot the shit. Dudes that I used to think were, like, you know, out of my reach, completely out of my reach. You know what I mean?
But behind the security guard with that door.
Yeah. It's a weird, like, little world that we get to live in with, you know, doing metal, you know. And yeah, I would completely miss it if it was gone, you know.
It's going to take some time, but it's going to come back. It has to. I don't know what we'll do if not. There'll be a bunch of live stream shows, which just won't be as cool.
Live stream shows, unfortunately, suck.
Yeah, but it's going to happen.
I get it. But, like, check it out. They usually sound really bad.
No, but they can't nowadays with what bands are going to be doing there.
Yeah.
That has to be a stipulation. If you're going to do a live stream show, it has to sound fucking amazing.
It has to sound good. I don't know what it was. I'm not hip to everything happening in the world, but
apparently Metallica is going to start doing live stream shows every Monday.
No fucking way.
I'm pretty sure I read that. If I'm wrong, everyone blast me in the comments, please.
I don't have COVID.
I'm going to keep that. One last shitty question. What did you learn from your time in the Faceless?
Okay, so I got a lot of my time wasted. Completely wasted. You know, I don't know what's going on with that band now, you know. I don't have, like, ill will to anyone. But I did learn that when you're, like, the guy in charge of the band, you know, I got to see what it's like to have someone leading the band who doesn't take into account, like, all the effort and time and that other people put in, you know what I mean? I got to see the extreme other side, you know what I mean? And it kind of made me very much... It made me think of all the times where I could have been a better band leader, you know what I mean? And I guess, yeah, I mean, not to be shitty, but yeah, it kind of showed me, like, wow, you know, you have to be good to your bandmates, you know, because experiencing what it was like for me being on the side of, like, you know, let's just say it was a bad situation, you know, and it wasn't all.
It must have been very, very frustrating being a leader of a band to step into someone else's band and you feel like he's not running it properly.
Oh God, it was. The band had that band still. I mean, the band has a lot of potential.
I love the Faceless. I love Michael Keane.
Yeah,
he has such potential. To that Planetary Dualities is a fucking fantastic album.
I hated all that shit until I heard that album.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, I liked like Necrophagus when they came out, and as far as tech death went, I didn't like that was sort of becoming a thing, you know, around like 2005, 2006, 2007. I didn't care for a lot. I liked death metal, you know what I mean? Like, and black metal, obviously. But as far as death metal, I liked death metal, you know what I mean? I heard that Planetary Duality. It really fucking, you know, I knew Michael Keane before that, you know what I mean? And I was just like, whatever, you know, like I knew they were just like a young band that was talented, you know? I wasn't going to sit around and listen to their music, you know? But when I heard that album, I really was like pretty blown away with not only how like well played and well written everything was, but it had a vibe, you know?
From beginning to the end.
Yeah, which I really, you know, it had like a vibe that was up there. It was like the tech death version of like what a lot of more like atmospheric and moody bands were capable of. You know what I mean? And it kind of really like, honestly, it really, it also did something else for me. It made me go, whoa, there's no way to compete with that. You know what I mean? And, you know, Abigail, back then we had some more technical elements, and then I was like, what's the point? You know, I'm gonna find some other way to create some other sound. You know what I mean? Because, you know, if bands like this are coming out, Jesus, you know.
One last question, something that I've been doing just recently. I always wanted to do it and I always forget. You're the second person I've asked. What is your hangover cure?
That's a good question. It's going to sound kind of ridiculous, but if Pedialyte isn't available, I will get a Gatorade and a can of Coca-Cola Classic. I take the Coca-Cola Classic with aspirin. The caffeine plus the aspirin, sort of like taking a Goodies powder or a BC powder. Except I think the sugar helps when you're, hungover as well, because your blood sugar might have like crashed or whatever. I think that helps to get you getting up. Plus the Gatorade, obviously, for the electrolytes. You combine all of those things. Maybe if you can get a banana, if you're lucky, I think is helpful. Yeah. And then the only other thing that's going to help is sleep. Otherwise, you're fucked. And for me, my hangovers last till midnight. Yeah. Right before I go to bed, I'm like, I'm starting to feel pretty good, actually. And then
I guess I'll have a beer.
yeah, exactly. Then I'm ready for at least one or two.
The older I get, the longer they last. Yeah.
That is something that anyone that's younger, thinking that they're going to be able to keep going the way they have been, I got news for you. There was a time when I could drink, 30 beers and the next day get up and do things. I can have 5 and feel like shit. I can have 3 sometimes and feel like shit. There's even been times when if I didn't drink for 2 weeks and I had like 2 beers, I woke up and I'm like, why am I hungover? This is ridiculous.
It depends which beers. Now that we're getting older, we're choosing heavier beers, hypothetically.
That's absolutely true. Yeah.
Ken, thank you so much. We're going to do this again in person where we can actually share a beer. And this is another COVID thing. Are we going to actually still chin glasses? Anyways.
I don't know.
I have all these thoughts going on in my head. But anyways, thank you so much, Ken.
I've never been a germaphobe, but I am now.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cling. Hey, thank you all so much for listening right to the end. Boy, that was a great chat. I had so much fun. So cool to kick it with someone that you've never really met before, not even face to face, and just immediately just hit it off. I can tell that me and Ken are going to have a lot more brews together face to face once COVID-19 is gone and done with, and something that we can laugh about. I am looking forward to those days. Thank you so much, Ken. Super stoked to hang out next year when you come through on Devastation on the Nation 2021. And I'm super stoked to hear that new Abigail Williams record, which you are recording right now. Props to all the musicians out there that are taking this time out there in social isolation to record and write new music. I am so excited for the new releases that are going to come thanks to these difficult times. Just 2 things before I let you go. Number 1, support your artists that you love. They are struggling right now. They are not on tour. They are not playing shows. A lot of people had invested to go out on tour and had to cancel tours or postpone tours. They bought merchandise that they cannot sell. Please go out and check out their online stores. Support the artists that you love. Secondly, if you're going to be drinking any beer while you're in social isolation, the best way to do that is to drink local craft beer. Craft beer breweries make a lot of their profits and a lot of their money via their tap rooms. People come in, they have a bite to eat, they drink some beers, they enjoy the whole experience of the craft beer tap room. That is something that cannot happen right now. So go out and support your local craft beer industry. You can do that. There are some bottle shops that are delivering beer right now. This morning, I just received my package from Vox&Hops Bière here in Montreal. Huge shout out to them for putting this initiative together. I am super stoked that more craft beer stores are doing this, and if you can order directly from the brewery, do that. There's a lot of places that are still sending out some growlers, some bottles, and some cans. So do that. Support your local craft beer industry. It is very important. It'd be a shame if they were some of the victims to COVID-19. Much love and respect. Enjoy the rest of your week, and remember to enjoy life, metal, and craft beer responsibly for the time being. Cheers, Vox and Hops Hits.